All right, good morning, everyone. I think it's a couple minutes after here, so we'll go ahead and get started with this month's presentations. Um, my name is Grant Taylor. I am the Safety Program Manager at the Eastgate Regional Council of Governments. Um, so this month we're going to be doing a discussion about safety funding. Um, so this follows with a webinar format. The plan's about a 30-minute presentation with some open discussion being available afterwards. There is a Q&A option that you can ask questions in. Feel free to raise your hand if you got questions, or go ahead and use the chat. Whatever makes you feel comfortable. If you got questions, you want to talk, bring something up, or you want to know more about something or thoughts on something. We are recording all the meetings. They're going to get posted on. They're posted on our YouTube page, where we have a playlist we've been starting up of adding on each one as it goes through, so everybody will be able to go back and look something up again, or if they're not able to make one, you can always join on and check it out there. And if you got additional questions after the webinar, feel free to message me if you don't want to, if you're not comfortable being more outgoing of presenting as part of the webinar. Feel free to reach out to me at any point in time and ask your questions. And I'm glad to talk with everybody about any of the safety stuff. I want to do a little bit of some quick safety data for the region, the Mahoning and Trumbull counties. This is the 25-26 crash statistics showing off where we were at for the region. For total crashes in 25 was at 9,854. So far, the first 4 months up through the end of April of 2025 up to the end of April was at 3,183, whereas this year we're at 2,934. Looking at the fatal or serious injury crashes in 2025, there was 252 total throughout the year. The first 4 months of 2025 were 74. This year we're only at 65. And for fatal crashes in 2025, there were 37 total throughout the entire year. The first 4 months of 2025 had 11, and the first 4 months of 2026 so far have only had 6. So good news, at least we're down on all of our crashes, especially down on fatal crashes compared to last year, which is absolutely wonderful news. One of the big things we keep trying to talk about is the safe system approach. It's been one of the big goals for safety for the last couple of years, being pushed out across the country. Goes into these few different categories, such as safer people, safer vehicles, safer speeds, safer roads, and post-crash care. The big thing it talks a lot about is a few tenets, sort of as death and serious injuries are unacceptable. That said, humans will make mistakes, humans are vulnerable, and responsibility is shared. You need to have educated drivers, you need to have safe system, safe cars, and having emergency responses that can be active in helping to reduce any severity. And redundancy is crucial. It's one of the big ones. You get talked a lot about the Swiss cheese model, where that every layer of the safety is a piece of Swiss cheese, and occasionally cars do go through the holes in the cheese to the next level. The idea, though, is you have multiple layers so that each layer is something else that's helping to reduce severity or reduce the chances of a crash, and that's what each of these layers comes into. It's making sure you've got education, help people make sure that people are driving correctly. It's having vehicles that have safety measures built into them. It's having roads with appropriate speeds that people are less likely to have severe crashes. Each one of those things ties in to help make sure that your safety is being taken care of from a lot of different angles, not just one. So with this series, the big goal here has been keeping topics short, entertaining, focusing on education topics concerned for members and local communities, easy access to the information, dialogue alongside it, and a connection, developing that you guys know who I am, you know what we do here, and you're able to come to me or reach out to me and discuss this stuff if you want to. It's one of the big goals with this whole series is it's part education, wanting to get out some information, wanting to make sure people know stuff, but also being able to make sure you guys know you can come here and talk to me and bring up my questions to me, and we can figure out ways of moving forward with any issues. So this month, again, we'll be talking about safety funding. And now we're through the intro stuff. So remember, if you got any questions, feel free to ask. So the one to start with, which is big part here, is going to be the ODOT Highway Safety Improvement Programming Fund. It's a lot of the safety funding that goes on out there goes through these processes. Within the highway safety, the big things are the formal safety applications, abbreviated safety applications, systemic safety applications for pedestrians, and systemic safety applications for roadway departures. Each one of these is sort of a different program. The systemic safeties are still somewhat the same type of program, but they're very, very similar, built on some different criteria. First, we'll go into what the formal safety applications are. This is typically what's used for safety for a lot of the big projects. When you're looking at these applications, traditionally they're looking at a March 31st and August 31st are the deadlines for applying. With those deadlines, it's still recommended that you should be in contact with District 4 of ODOT beforehand. Don't want to go into it at the last minute and putting something out there. You want to make sure that they're aware of it, and a lot of that can help with figuring out what type of stuff may or may not work. And so the formal safety applications are available for 500,000 up to 6 million, with a 10% match. There is some stuff about some possible reduction in areas of economic distress, but in general, it's a 10% match. It's for the locals; they have to match. The big things here is the requirements that are needed for going into this program. It's a minimum of 3 crashes per year with a 30% injury rate, and looking back at the last 3, 4, or 5 years of data. So that's where you have make sure that when you're looking into what's going into this is making sure you're still meeting those requirements. They're the ones to focus a lot more on not just the areas that have a lot of crashes, but a lot of the crashes that are also having the higher severity. There's a lot of focus on trying to make sure that we're reducing the severe crashes first. So this program you can go apply for, and getting a lot of different types of infrastructure projects go through it, as long as they have that big safety element of it. The second one to talk about here is the abbreviated safety application. It's very similar to the formal, but it's a smaller application. It gets reviewed 4 times a year. You can put in the applications pretty much at any point in time. They just do a review and figure out what to fund at these different points in time at the end of March, end of June, September, and December. These are for projects that are less than 600,000. Again, you still need a 10% match. They're designed, though, to be simple, quick projects. They have to be done within 2 years, so it's got to be something that's much quicker. Still looking at minimum 3 crashes per year over 3, 4, or 5 years. A lot of what you want to look at for this type of stuff is stuff like the proven safety countermeasures that we've been talking about in some of the others, other webinars. They do, of course, have special considerations for high injury or pedestrian safety improvements. Those have been really important. So these are typically, you need to already have right of way for these type of projects. They're really designed to be something that's just quick. Here's a issue that we have. Here's a quick solution. That's what a lot of the proven safety countermeasures often we're talking about. And that's why I've been bringing those up for the other ones. Is those are often quicker, easier solutions that can help out in the areas to reduce the crashes. It may not be a big major project, but you can still do something small and still have a big impact in these areas. So the next one I want to talk about here is the systemic safety applications for pedestrians. These applications are open through March 31st and August 31st. They are for up to $2 million. Um, there's a requirements are a little bit different for these type of programs. Um, so the arterial and collector roadways are a requirement. Those are certain types of roadways that are classified through the functional class system. Um, they do keep track of a priority levels, which can go into a bunch of different things. Looking at an active transportation demand they keep track of, which is looking at a bunch of different criteria for all the different census tracts of what areas have the most demand, the most need, or the most demand and need for uh, pedestrian activities within there. So trying to figure out where people are walking or going to be walking most likely. So that is one of the big things that goes into evaluating where their priorities are. And then also looking at the type of roads. It's a little bit small to see on here with the priority level stuff of looking at how that stuff comes up, but those two things go into a priority demand that they have on the road network. And you can see a little bit in the image there of the map is showing off where that the roads that are higher priority are at. It is a map that's online. Once we get to the end of the presentation, I'm going to go back in and pull up the online maps and show that to you, at least so you can see where they get that information. The big thing that comes up with these type of the systemic safety is this program's not designed around redoing an intersection. That's more of the formal or abbreviated. This is called systemic safety because it's going a lot more along the idea of we looking at a area or the region or something that's a bigger issue going on throughout the area. That's why there's not really requirements for the number of crashes for something like this because it's going to be taking these roads, the arterial, the collectors, where there is a lot more chance of having these types of crashes and having a bigger impact. And then wanting to do small, easier uh, countermeasures being deployed, but doing them across an area. It might be going in to look at a big corridor and looking at there's a lot of pedestrians in that corridor. It's a big issue. It might come up as being a high priority on here. So maybe it's going through and getting a couple crosswalks along that corridor and getting in proper curb cuts to allow people to cross better and getting sidewalk maybe going in those areas if there's not sidewalk even. It can also be bigger solutions of going across an area and looking at maybe doing one type of solution that's a big issue that comes up throughout the area. So these aren't big localized projects. It's taking lots of small projects and trying to hit a big area of places that are concerns or could be concerns. And when you're looking at especially stuff like pedestrians, where the pedestrian crashes aren't that frequent, but they're usually catastrophic when they do happen. And you can't use just pedestrian data for determining where might be an issue for crashes. But you could still take a look at your roadways and look at what areas are people the most likely to be walking, where are people most likely to be crossing, taking some of those areas and going ahead and starting to try to bring in these little smaller pedestrian countermeasures like we've talked about and figuring out how to cover a big area and make the area safer. Um, Next one I want to go into here is the other systemic safety, which is roadway departures. For a lot of this, it's the same criteria for a lot of the stuff, the same deadlines. It can go up to 5 million. Requirements are arterial or collector roadway, has to cover multiple locations. This one goes into is looking at stuff like lane width, what the speed limits are, some different factors like that to determining what are the areas that are going to be the highest priority to look at. And then just like when looking at the pedestrian safety one, where we're looking at not one localized project, but looking at a big area or a corridor, that's again what this is looking at. It's trying to go along with these type of smaller projects along the area. It may be taking a big corridor where you've got concerns and looking into rumble striping or upgrading the with thermoplastic striping along there to make sure that the stripes along the roadway are visible within an area, or might be looking over an area to see about signs that could go into the area, seeing what if there's a lot more what needs done that can be done as a small project to have a big impact over those big areas. And all these things have a lot of more that goes into them, where there's certain things that are eligible and certain things that aren't. And um, perfect thing, you can reach out to me if you want to talk more about those ever. And a lot of the information is just out there on ODOT's website, and we have a lot of the information as well. But again, if you got a lot of small projects across an area, it's definitely worth looking into. So some of the other, um, we got a question about, are the maps on the website? They are, and I will, when we get to the end of the actual presentation, the X out of the PowerPoint, I'm going to drop into, we have them on our website and they are on ODOT's website, and I'll show where both of those are. So other safety related funding, really quickly talk about Safe Route to Schools, active transportation plan development, the township safety sign grant program, and Safe Streets for All. So Safe Route to Schools is a big one that I'm a big fan of. I think it's a great program to be able to utilize. It can help a lot for your communities. Within applying for Safe Route to Schools funding, typically in December is when they have applications come in for planning, and March is when they come in for implementation. So the Safe Route to Schools program is designed around providing safety around schools. So it is kindergarten all the way up through high school. You can look at schools for there. It's looking at typically anything that happens within about 2 miles of those schools. The big thing is that for applying for this program is you've got to have a plan that is focused on active transportation needs and includes a lot about the schools. That typically would be something like a school travel plan, but if you have an active transportation plan that also includes schools, you can use something like that for applying for it. Now, with that first December application for Safe Routes to Schools, that one is a planning one. You can actually apply to work with ODOT to have a school travel plan developed for the school. You apply, if you get selected, they help you with developing the plan. There's a consultant gets involved to help with developing the plan itself. Typically, they want it completed within about 18 months. This year, when the next round comes up, it should be for doing fiscal year of 2028. I'm guessing off of that because last year's was 2027, so assuming it's the same pattern, it should be 2028. It involves a lot of stuff like having dialogues with the school to have them talk to students and figure out surveys about how they're getting to school and talk about that type of stuff to figure out what the needs are, and then looking into a lot of data for the school and where people are at. It is going to need the help of the schools themselves to be involved with something like that. So it's definitely something before looking into, is making sure at that point you're gonna be able to get them involved as well. But if you do, the planning efforts through ODOT are covered completely with no match. But also you can always develop your own plan. They do have a lot of documentation on the website about how to do this stuff. I am planning on doing a webinar at another point this year, focused just on safe routes to schools, and be doing a lot more talk about that then. The second part is implementation, which is one that typically is in March, and that's about implementing the stuff from your school travel plan. It's can be infrastructure or non-infrastructure. The infrastructure can be up to $1 million. The non-infrastructure can be up to 60,000 or 120,000. That breakout is because for a lot of the non-infrastructure can be stuff like some sort of program that's being done, or which typically we would apply for 1 year to do it at 60,000, but they've got the ability to apply for 2 years at a time and get up to the 120,000 by saying it's going to be a 2-year project and figuring out some of the details there. They do have some restrictions though on the number of schools that are being involved with it, and that can bring that number down. If it's only 1 to 3, you're looking at 20,000, 4 to 9, 40,000, and 10 or more, you're up to 60,000. So within your plan, the idea is you have a lot of infrastructure, looking at where crossings need to be put in, and that's can help a lot with where this goes into. The non-infrastructure is one of the ones I doesn't get used as much from what I've seen, but it can be setting up different programs. it can't be a reoccurring cost like hiring on a school resource officer. It wouldn't be something that would be able to be covered, but it could be if you're wanting to start a new program that somebody in your staff is taking on. It could be used for helping with getting that program started. It could also be some sort of educational components can go into it. And um, so it's a little bit, it's not the infrastructure, but there's a lot more of working within the community is what a lot of those non-infrastructure projects end up being. Next one I'm going to go over is active transportation plan. I didn't bother with put the slide because I want to just do quick. The active transportation plan funding is not directly safety related, but I felt like it was enough connections still make it be important, especially to connect the safe routes to schools. You can apply for funding through ODOT to help with developing an actual active transportation plan within your community focused on bikes, pedestrians, vulnerable road users. If that's used as involving the schools as well, again, it can be eligible for the safe routes to schools as well for that purpose. But it's definitely vulnerable road users is always a big issue, and the active transportation plans can help with developing a better plan for that. So I felt like it was worth at least bringing that up. Next thing I want to go into is the Township Safety Sign Grant Program. It's up to $50,000 purchase of signage material. Big thing is it's just for the purchase of the signage material. You have to have somebody on staff that can, whether it's a road crew to go out and actually install it where it's at. I say it can only apply once every approximately 10 years. I'm guessing a lot on that. In the past, it has been you can only apply one point in time, but they've started now opening it back up that if you had applied beyond a certain point in time in the past, you're now eligible to reapply again since they've been working through so much over the years. The big thing though is remember is it's not typically something you want to do for a one-off sign. It's since you can only do it every so often, you want to make sure you're figuring out what you need, making a plan for it, and going into that program like that with a lot more knowledge about what you want to do. Last one here I'm going on is Safe Streets for All. I kept this one very brief because it is been a 5-year program through the DOT. This year is year 5 of 5 with a application deadline of 5 p.m. today. That said, though, is they do have plans they're working out on trying to continue this program and keep it going after this deadline for the next year. I'm not sure about what will fully be implemented or when it will be, but there is hope that there will be a lot more going forward with it, and they're trying to at least. The big things here is the funding is involved around using a comprehensive safety plan. With the comprehensive safety plan, we do have a comprehensive safety plan as Eastgate for Mahoning and Trumbull counties. It has a lot of different solutions for different safety issues. It can be used for applying for this program. Within that program is you can apply for infrastructure projects to do some big infrastructure projects. But you also have a lot of stuff like supplemental planning or demonstration type projects that are also eligible. So a lot of supplemental planning could be as our region-wide plan may not completely cover something that's important to you within it, or you want to expand more, so you can actually apply for funding to do a focus study on that area. Demonstration projects can be a lot of stuff of trying to just set up something temporary, looking at some of the maybe a proven safety countermeasures that we talk about, you think is a good idea, but you're not completely sure how it's going to work out. You can do demonstration projects where maybe it's going to be blocking off part of a roadway for a week or so as a demonstration of showing how it works and how it'll function and seeing how it works for your community. Can be going and getting bollards to make an extended curb cuts for making it a smaller crossing for pedestrians. A lot of those type of smaller projects where you're just trying to sort of show how it can work, and maybe you're not completely convinced about the safety projects, and that lets you guys see how they work and how they work for your community. So a little bit here I want to talk about at least of stuff I was thinking about of what you need for success for within safety funding. The big one is plan ahead. And plan ahead is a really, really big one. Just because you need time to make sure you've got everything put together. You need to be able to get all your documentation for your crashes. You're going to be able to have a plan put together for what you want to do. So that when the time comes that funding does become available, you can apply for is you have this stuff ready to go. And the big thing there is that we've talked a lot about here about safety funding, but there are other sources of funding out there that that if you have plans, your project might fit into, and you can actually get through different ways of doing it and still get your safety benefits that way. Also, a lot of time you have discretionary grants can become available that might be a one-off of here's where some funding is, how these are type projects that can be put into it, and then having people having a plan means you're ready to go for being able to apply. Um, Next thing is communicating with Eastgate and ODOT District 4. District 4 is amazing for everything that they do. They are very, very helpful. Um, and making sure that they know what's coming. A lot of that's when it comes time to apply, of having them already involved and knowing what's happening is a big important aspect. And at Eastgate, I'm always glad to help, to be involved, to help going over data, looking at stuff, looking at different options, having it always ready to be able to talk with you and help make sure everything's going forward as best we can. Learning about the countermeasures through these webinars, I think, is great. There's a lot of these programs that are available that might be looking at the lower end solutions like the systemic safeties and the abbreviated programs, that knowing about some of these solutions that come up, that when you do have safety issues that come up, being able to say, hey, well, this might be something smaller we can do and work towards to try to do something here rather than waiting for a big project to come through. Also, looking beyond just the infrastructure. Infrastructure is huge. I mean, that's what people see. I fully get that. And seeing a big project going in and having a safety component is amazing. But there is a lot going on with like having educational programs set up at the schools to make sure that people are learning more about how to cross, or riding bikes is a big one that's comes up because I always see comments about people are riding on the wrong side of the road or at the dark wearing dark clothes. Having a program that's educating them at a younger age to be aware of this stuff is really, really important. And there's a lot's been done with bike rodeos are being done at schools where you're bringing students in, having them going over, learning how to ride a bike and showing how the bike works and talking a lot about the safety components is important. A lot of this, teaching kids at a young age is great because not only are you teaching them necessarily before they may have learned behaviors that repeat, but there's a lot of kids that will sit there, and my youngest will question all the time about what's going on with the lights and um, why did I stop on yellow, and going into explaining there, but they like kids keep you honest. So having kids also being aware of these issues, that they talk to their parents about them as well, to keep that information going out further. All of these, I think, are important things to look into and to see what's going on. Um, so that is the meat of the safety funding that I wanted to at least go into and show off for about some of the programs out there. Again, there's lots of other programs that might be eligible for something that you can go through, but these are the ones that were more safety focused. Wanted to really quickly, let's see, one second, I'll pull up these maps. All right, so it should be sharing right now. For first thing I'm showing off here is the Eastgate website. When you go here, the very top bar, there is a programs, transportation, safety planning overview. This goes here, which has got our comprehensive safety plan PDF and then a site about the safety plan. When you go into this, there is a safety GIS mapping. that has a large amount of the map type stuff for safety. It will come up, ask you about some information, and there is a map on here for systemic safety. You go into this, it will give you all the systemic safety stuff. It can be a little bit frustrating, but there is a button at the bottom for turning on and off layers. The top two layers that do show up are roadway departure priorities and pedestrian priorities. So they can be turned on and off to view whichever one you want, and you can easily move around and see what you're looking for. The other one is ODOT does have their safety map viewer, which is typically I have just fine by going through their systemic safety page. There's a few other ways to get to it, at least just doing a quick Google search will get you there quick. And it's very, very similar to what my map, because my map is literally pulling from their map because they know what they're talking about. So I trust their resources. And you can come here and same thing, swap stuff around, look at it that way. And that is that information. Are there any other questions? Or anything anybody else wants to know about or talk about at this point in time? And did have one question that was put in beforehand about want to know about if solutions for enforcement when for stuff like people running stop signs and speeding. There's outside of having law enforcement more involved, trying to make sure that they know about issues that are coming up that might need targeted intervention. The next solution that I have at that point is looking at a lot more of going into trying to make sure that the roadways feel like you need to stop or feel like you can't drive as fast. That's a huge part for a lot of that. It's that big wide open roads feels like you can drive faster. People typically drive faster. Having narrow lanes or having anything along the side of the road can help with reducing people's desire to drive fast. But typically the enforcement is going to be the biggest thing looking at for that type of situation. So as at this point in time, I'll stick around at least for let's see. See, Dave has his hand up, so see, I think Dave, I set it up so you'd be able to unmute. Maybe not. I see. There we go. All right, Dave, you should be able to unmute now if you'd like to ask a question.
Okay, I found a mute button. Took me a couple minutes. Sorry about that, Grant. I just want to make a couple notes with as far as the formal applications and the website. It does say 6 weeks before our deadline is pretty much 6 weeks to before the application deadline, and that's really a bare minimum. We'd really like if the locals are submitting a study, we'd really like to talk to them really in the beginning to coordinate with the district. 6 weeks is like a bare minimum time to get things set up, because of what happens after we get a final study. We set up a meeting for the district to review it. We give a couple of weeks for the district to digest the study, to review the study, before setting up the meeting with the district safety review team. And then there's also if there's anything that's needed, there's enough time then to address those items and get those done before applying for them. If you notice, the formal and the systemic applications are really on the same submission schedule. They're both after the submission deadline, they Columbus does a review. Their safety funding committee will do a review. Each application for formal and the systemic will be a minimal time to present the project to the safety funding committee down in Columbus. The district goes down there to present our projects also. The other notes I put down for the systemic applications, I guess I'll start with, I want to be retiring at the end of the week, just to let you all know. I've been doing handling of safety. I've had a passion for doing safety and traffic since it was put on my lap 35 years ago, back in 1991. Now, back then, the funding amount that the state spent on safety was $3 million per year. And now it's the budget now is we have actually the largest safety funding in the United States. Ohio provides $185 million per year for the safety projects for all these programs, including other programs with Ohio Department of Public Safety and the Highway Patrol. In addition to the County Engineers Safety Association. It's been I've been here long enough where the focus was on interstates and finishing up the interstates at the end of the 80s, and our biggest issues were relieving congestion, wider, more lanes, and ODOT didn't do sidewalks back then. It was like MAIDs. We don't do windows. It's a township responsibility or the county responsibility. But we now have, instead of relieving congestions, where safety countermeasures include traffic calming, more wider lanes. We're now looking at road diets to slow down traffic. And as far as ODOT doesn't do sidewalks, we have all the safety programs, including Safe Routes to School. We have the multimodal design guide, which helps us design those facilities and creates the standards for them. And also I've seen our safety list that we have. We put out a safety list each year based on the raw data of 5 years of crashes and looking at intersections and sections or corridors with it on the non-freeway locations. And they're also broken up by rural, urban, and suburban characteristics. Freeways we look at as corridors, and those are broken up in rural and urban. Anyways, on the list we reviewed really the top priority locations, the top 100 to 200, based on the priority number, based on the and also on level of complaint issues that we have at the area that are known. And we select locations each year, usually about 8 locations that are on top priority, and select those for study during that year. Those are the district studies. But the priority lists also include now I've seen them include the local roads, the county roads, the township roads. Those are included and in with the state locations. That map can also be accessed on the safety website. But as far as the contacts, if you see on the right-hand side, right at the top of the highway safety page, you'll see view contacts, and my name is in District 4. I'll be leaving at the end of the week, and so I contact right now temporarily would be either Aaron Conley or Dawn Roxbury. Dawn takes care of the traffic and safety within Mahoning County, and Aaron takes care of the traffic and safety in Trumbull County. And in addition to 2 other counties they each have in District 4. That's really all I had. I just wanted, the biggest thing was 6 weeks is a bare minimum, coordinating with the district. It's really good to get coordinated with a district earlier than that.
Yeah,
That's
thank
all.
you
Thanks.
for
Thanks, Grant.
yeah, thank you for all that information. That's all really, really helpful and relevant, and keeping some of the stuff that I like the exact time is a very, very important thing. Do appreciate everything you've done. I've learned a lot from you over the last 8 years of getting to talk to you over time, and appreciate everything you've done. Um, with that, anybody has any other questions, they want to stick around, ask anything, follow up with email, so is always available. Thank you guys all for joining in, being involved. I love getting to do this, so I'm very, very glad to get to do it every time. So thank you guys very much, and then I will see everybody in June.